Hello, beautiful friends. This is Rachel Archelaus, and today we're going to talk about publishing a book. Many of you don't know this, but I worked in publishing a long time ago, and so I got to see how it works with a real publisher, how they work with the author, what different jobs there are along the way, like typesetting and editing and proofreading, and there's so many different things that happen. And then I started my own small press where I published a few books of poetry by other people. And so I got to go through the entire process myself and with a team of people doing the actual work on the book. And then now in this book right here, I went through the entire long process of everything that a traditional publisher would do, including doing something called a bound galley, which is why this looks so funny, why this has this box here and then this weird information on the back. So I went through the whole entire process just as if a real publisher had brought my book on board. And I made a little list this morning of all of the phases of publishing a book the real way. And I want to share it with you in case you are thinking about publishing a book or are actually publishing a book right now. It is not too late for you. And it's a lot though. So I made this into a checklist. You can download it if you don't want to take too many notes here. But I wanted to walk you through the process and tell you why these things happen. So not just what happens when a traditional publisher publishes a book, but why they do it. And don't forget, a real publisher is looking to make money on the back end. So they're looking to make money by book sales, which is why they have a longer process. They have a lot of building up to do, a lot of making sure things are really right in order for the book to make them money. So this is definitely worth paying attention to if you also want your book to make money. Because the regular self-publishing way, which I've done plenty of times with my own workbooks and stuff and coloring books, it's really just to get it up there, right? We write the book, we maybe edit it a little bit, we get a cover slapped together, and then we just put it online. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to go through the process of how a traditional publisher does it so that you set the book up for success, then definitely download this checklist, listen to this, and then learn why they do everything they do. So in this list, there are 10 phases, and I'm going to read them in order to you and explain them in order, but a lot of these things overlap. So there's definitely a lot of overlapping happening throughout this list, so just keep that in mind. Also keep in mind that this process normally takes about 2 years. So it was so funny. When I wrote this book, I was thinking, I'm going to self-publish it because a real publisher takes so long and I don't want to have to get an agent and wait around and then see if anyone will publish it. And I also want to have the rights to it, so I can do anything I want at the end. But it ended up taking me 2 years anyway. So just heads up, this takes a long time if you want to have this book be its own legacy. We have so much wisdom that we could share. We have multiple books in us, but it's really important to pick one for this first one. And make sure that it's exciting to you, that it is in your zone of genius, because you want to write the best book you could possibly write. And believe me, to do that, it takes a lot of energy and a lot of time and a lot of devotion, because there will be days when you sit down to write where you don't feel like writing, where you have nothing to write. I have had many of those days. I remember very plainly staring at a blank screen on my computer when I had a deadline and nothing happening, and sitting there for 4 hours, and then finally things have opened up for me. So know yourself, know what it is in your heart that you really want to share, and go for it. This is not a time to water down or make more mainstream or do any of that sort. You want to really go for it. If you want to write a book, write a book. Okay, so that's your concept. You need to make sure that you are pulling out of yourself the best thing that you have to share. If your concept is good, your book writing will be a lot easier. I had a writing coach, someone to help me keep on track, keep my deadlines going, create my outline, and she really helped me stay on track. She also helped me develop my style. So I would write a little bit and she would be like, okay, no, you're doing great. That's great. Or maybe revise this a little bit or see, add another story here. She really helped me lay out the book, make sure that I was keeping on task. You need an editor. You definitely 100% need an editor. And I had two editors because I wanted to make sure that I had the best possible book done when it was done. I didn't want a good book. I wanted a great book. I want a book that inspires people. And if you don't have an editor, your book is not going to be as good as it could be. Just totally plain and simple, done. Once you know the concept for your book, you can then decide to kind of seed this content out into the universe and gather people around you who will love your book when you're done with it. You can do that with blog posts or social media or however you want to do it, but you definitely want to start building your platform or developing your platform or getting them ready for your book when it's ready. You also want to start relationship building so that you can have some partners ready to go for when you release your book so that they can help you spread the word. All right, now we're getting into territory that most people who've not worked in publishing may be a little unfamiliar with. And so this is page design. You want a design for the interior of your book that represents what is in your book. There's also industry standards. A business book will look a certain way, a memoir will look a certain way, a self-help book may look a certain way, and only a really experienced typesetter and book designer will know that. So you really want to work with a professional there so that they can design your book the way it should look, so that later on when librarians are opening your book or book buyers are opening your book or other reviewers are opening your book, it will fly past them and they won't put it down because it won't look self-published. You may want to send it off to the Philippines. You may want to do it yourself, and that's totally fine. You can. But if you want your book to be published like a real publisher, then you want a professional book designer and typesetter to work on it so that it brings out the best of your book in a visual style and so that it definitely fits in with your genre in a good way, not in a bad way. There's also other things to consider, like do you want it in color, do you want it in black and white, what kind of paper do you want it printed on? All of these things really matter, and it's really fun when you're in it, but it's good to have some guidance. The cover design is one of the most important things. If your cover doesn't look professional and really convey the vibe of the book, then you're really doing yourself a disservice because people are going to pick up your book basically depending on whether or not they like the cover. Typesetting, right? That's where I worked. I worked for a typesetter a long time ago and it was pretty cool. And before I worked there, I didn't know what typesetting was. But those are the people who turn your book from a manuscript, just a Word document, not really styled up or anything, into what actually looks like a book. So chapter openings and page numbers and running heads and front matter and back matter, they make it look like a real book, and it's a really cool process to watch. But they have a hard job because they have to keep your page count. They have to account for blanks and where new chapter openings go and all sorts of stuff. And so you, like I said before about design, you definitely want somebody who knows what they're doing to typeset your book, especially if you have images and stuff like that. This is really where we get into professional publishing territory. Distribution. A lot of people think that if you're self-publishing, distribution or wholesaling is just out of the picture for you. But that's really not true. For this book, we are doing a lot in terms of distribution. We have different distributors for our ebook and for our paperback. We're going to specialty New Age stores by way of a special wholesaler. We've got traditional distributors on board as well. And that means that libraries can order it in the way that they normally would, and even bookstores, more mainstream bookstores can if they want. That's not really where we're going. We're going for like the new agey spiritual type stores and libraries. But we're also looking at manuscripts right now that would be great for museum gift shops and art stores. So depending on your book, will really determine your distribution strategy. And you don't want to just close the door on all of that. And you also don't want to rely just on like CreateSpace's expanded distribution. First of all, you'll make next to no money if you do it through them, but also they're not going to be an advocate of your book. You still have to send things out. You have to apply to get into these distributors. Just because you're listed somewhere doesn't mean that it's going to work out for you. So really knowing about wholesaling and distribution and printing, like who should print your book. You'll be really shocked to know that CreateSpace is not actually the cheapest printer you can go with, nor is it the best quality printer. So for this book, I'm using a different printer than Amazon, and the quality is way better, and that I'm making a lot more per book doing that. Also, ISBN. Now this is a really cool one. Do you want to buy an ISBN from your printer, or do you want to get your own and register your own press name? If you register your own ISBN, you can determine what it says on the sales page, say, of your Amazon book page. It'll either say CreateSpace or Lulu or Cephas Press in my case. So there's so much you can do, and there's so much control you have if you have your own ISBN. So that is something to think about. Also, you need another ISBN for your ebook. So you didn't really used to need an ISBN for an ebook, but nowadays it's pretty standard to have one, so you need 2 ISBNs if you're going to purchase them. This is a huge topic. Let's see what I have here. Reviews, galleys, pre-orders, interviews, partners, nonprofit tour. Holy cow. You have a lot of options here. If you want to go the route of the traditional publisher, then you'll want to make a bound galley like this. You'll want to learn what you need to put on the front and the back, and what phase of the book you actually create this out of, because this is not the final book. This has stuff missing in it. This has some typos in it. This is from our last pass before the final thing. See, we're missing a whole page here. So this is the point, when you make your bound galley, that you want to identify who you want to review your book. Do you want to send it out to Library Journal or the New York Times or your local paper or whoever? There's a lot of places you can send your book, including online bloggers, and so many people would love to get their hands on your book and review it for you. And that way you can have those reviews ready for when you go to launch your book. You can put it in the editorial review section on your Amazon list page. You can put it in your press release when you send out press releases to whoever you're sending them out to. You can put it on a sheet that you're sending to the libraries because they want to know that you have reviews. So that's a really crucial step that traditional publishers do that most self-publishers miss. And there's so much more to marketing. What is your pre-order strategy? Do you know how to set up pre-orders on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, etc.? Are you going to use your own platform, your own checkout system to do pre-orders and to sell your book? What are you doing to raise awareness? Are you doing interviews? Are you doing guest posting? Do you have partners? Are you working with a nonprofit? Are you going on tour? You know what I mean? Like, it is a really big section. Marketing is huge, and it's really because you want people to know that your book is coming out. It's so exciting. It's your message. It's what you've been working on for 2 years or a year and a half or a year. Of course, everything that we've done so far is leading up to this. So, you want to send out these letters to libraries, you want to contact bookstores, you want to contact any specialty stores that are, going to be able to support you, that makes sense for you. You want to have your affiliates ready, you want to have everything that they need given to them in plenty of time. You also want to alert your platform, you want to lead up to it, you maybe do some giveaways, and you want to also have a strategy for the long tail. So how are you going to be marketing your book going forward? The options are really endless. Download the worksheet. The link will be somewhere for you here to do that. All right, so steps 1 through 10. Concept, book writing, editing, platform development, page design, cover design, typesetting, printing and distribution, marketing, and sales. So that is a lot of stuff to do. And that is why I made this checklist for you so that you can, understand what the process is like and go through it. If you want help, we are now helping people through this process. So I'm taking my entire team that helped me with this book, which I was so happy with, and also my coaching skills to help you get to your zone of genius and your absolute best work possible. We're putting it all together into one package, and we are helping you launch your book. We're taking you through all of these steps completely and fully, except that with other vanity publishers or even traditional publishers, they are keeping your rights and they are getting some royalties off the back end. We decided not to do that. So we're not taking anything from you after that book is launching. You just pay us upfront for the services that we provide, and then you keep your book. You know how much you sell. You order copies directly from your printer. We set you up with all of that so that you know how to do that and you know how to track your sales. But that's it. We release you and send you on your way into book bliss. So if you're interested in this full service thing we got going on here, let me know and let's talk about where you are in this process. Maybe you already have a manuscript and you just need to start from the editing phase, or maybe you're really focusing right now on what your core concept is, what your zone of genius is, and exactly what to put in that book. So let me know, contact me, and we will talk about it and have a convo. And I'm really excited to talk about your book. This is so exciting. I love you, I love you, I love you, and I will talk to you very soon. All right, bye-bye.